Today is October the 10th, 2014. My name is Jim McClain. I'm the father of all these little monsters that run around here. I was born in Farrell, Pennsylvania.
What was your birth date?
August 25th, 1930. And my mother said it was the hottest day of the year. And she was mad that I came then. But I think I was born at home because we didn't have money for doctors. But my brother, youngest brother, he was born with a doctor. And my mother had midwives, and they helped, and they didn't need it. They didn't have that horrendous doctor bill. But then she took, they would take the babies to the doctor then. He would check them out after they cleaned them all up and blah, 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 whatever, babies. And that was it. Then my youngest brother came along in three years, and the doctor told my mother, after my sister was born, that you can't have any more. Well, did I fool them? And I came along in 3 years. And I came along in 3 years, and Chuck came along 3 more years. And the doctor, he was scratching his head. He said, my mother's name was May. He said, May, can't figure you out. I tell you one thing, and you make me a liar out of me. And you just double back. And have all these kids. And
so how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I got...
Tell them in order.
My oldest brother, my oldest sister is Betty, and then my next to oldest is my brother, and then my next to oldest is my next brother, and then down the line, older than me, is my sister, and then I came, and then my brother Chuck came.
So tell me their names in order from oldest to youngest.
Betty is the oldest girl, Bob is the oldest boy, Jack is the next to the oldest boy, Anna Lou is the youngest girl, and then James, me, and then Chuck. Chuck's my brother, yeah. And he lives in Arizona, yeah.
And what was the town that you grew up in was Sharon?
Sharon, no. It was Farrell, Pennsylvania.
Farrell.
And Mercer County.
What was life like in the 1930s in Mercer County in Farrell?
I can't remember the 30s. I know we didn't have a lot of money.
40s, yeah.
Most of our relatives, we lived in Farrell and then in Sharon. Sharon about 4 miles away. And then we moved there during World War II. But we didn't go anyplace. We didn't have a car. And you couldn't get gasoline anyways. But my uncle did have a car. And when we lived in Sharon, he lived right behind us, Uncle Howard. And him and my mother's family lived in Grove City, which is about 25 miles due east. And my dad's family lives in Mercer, which is about 20 miles due east on the same highway. And we used to go over there in the summertime when the roads were clear, no snow, because we had mountains and hills to go over, and then visit them. And it took all day, all day. They fed us, but it's still all day. And we always, Chuck and I, we were the youngest, we wanted to go home. Mom, I want to go home, Mama. And she said, sit down. She says, I don't get over here that often, especially when we was in Grove City. She had 4 sisters and 2 brothers. They had a whole crew, a bunch, herd, and she had to see them all. And oh Lord, and then I got 3 aunts over there in Grove City, and then I got an uncle who was he's my dad's brother, younger. But anyways, their father was the justice of the peace in Mercer, and they used to call him the fining judge of Mercer County. He fines you for everything, and he wasn't liked very well. But then my uncle, my grandfather, he died, I guess, and then my uncle took the job over, and he was blind in one eye, couldn't see out of the other. And the local sheriff was always picking him up for running red lights. He couldn't tell. He didn't know red from green, and he'd just go through them. It was clear he'd go through them, and they knew his car, and they knew it. They pulled him over. They said, "Tom, you ran the red light again." He says, "That was green." "No, Tom, no." And he used to argue with him. and they used to get so mad at him. And he just, then he'd drive off, you know. He's just a piece. You don't want to pull with him, because if you ever get in front of him, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. We lived in Farrell just when the war started, because my brother Bob and Jack, one went in the Army, one went in the Navy, and they were gone. And my oldest sister, her husband had moved to California. He was working at Lockheed building airplanes. And my sister, youngest sister, Anna Lou, she worked for a telephone company. They sent her to Florida. So it was only two of us and my mother and dad at home.
Okay.
And
what was rationing?
huh?
What is rationing?
They was rationing everything: coffee, meat, eggs, butter. You couldn't hardly get butter. They had stamps, and you would sell out so many. And then they had rationing chips for gasoline, and you only get so many gallons with it, and it wasn't any good then until they were kind of dated, and then you had to wait. If you had a car till that date come up, and then you could go get more gasoline. And they didn't have cigarettes. My dad rolled his own. That's when I learned how to smoke, because I was rolling my own. And I watched them, and I made my own then.
How old were you?
Well, war come on in 42. I was 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a big kick in our neighborhood. We all, a lot of the guys, their dads rolled their own, and then they when the dad wasn't around, they had the paper and the tobacco, and we rolled. We didn't roll many because we didn't want them to catch on. The tobacco was going down too quick, and they had to buy new tobacco. And we were little devils. We were devils.
Up a little bit.
We were devils.
Sorry for the shaking.
And me and my one guy in Sharon, Harvey, he was 2 years older, and I called what they called passing newspapers in the afternoon, and I had to walk all over into Ohio, and I only had 20-some customers. But one place I had was a bar, a beer bar and booze, and I go in there and put it down, and they got to know me real well. And Harvey, he looked old enough to buy it, and we would go down there, and Harvey would go in and buy it and come out, and then we would go drink it. And oh boy.
Beer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was only about 15 then. And one day we drank too much. Harvey got sick, and I got sick. And at home, when our mothers couldn't figure out what, until they started smelling the vomit on the ground. And they knew then. You cannot fool your mother. Never, never try. Mothers always know best. And they know everything. You can't hide nothing from them. And my mother yelled at me because my dad was drinking too much. And I don't think my brothers, I think maybe they had beer. That was all they, but she never let me live that down. She said, you and Harvey, I know you two always got into trouble together. We always got into trouble. And in that neighborhood in Sharon, all the neighbor kids, we used to hang out together. We had a bear lion above, next to Harvey's house, and we had a tree, and we got some old wood and put up a ring for basketball. And we would play basketball in the mud, in the snow, everything. Didn't bother us, no. Didn't bother us. And football there, we had a good time. We had baseball in the wintertime. People thought we was crazy. But us kids, we had a good time in that neighborhood. We was all real close together, yeah. And there was this one family, they had a redheaded daughter. And she was about 4 years older than my brother Jack. But she had a boyfriend, and they liked to go roller skating over in Ohio. Well, then my brother got discharged, and he liked roller skating. And I says, and Jane was only a year and a half older than me, and she had beautiful, beautiful red hair. And I had red hair. She used to call me Red, that's all the time. And she still does on the phone. And so I told Jack, I says, Jack, my brother did not have a girlfriend. He used to go by himself. He just loved to roller skate. And I was telling her about Jane. And he says, I can go over there and take her anytime I want. I said, you will never. And I bet him. And he says, okay, if you lose, you have to wash my car. I said, okay, if I win, then what? He said, I'll give you $5. And I tell Jane that. And she was on my side, though. But So Jack told me, he said, let me know when Jane's and her boyfriend's going back over there. They didn't go every night because it was about 15 miles. And I told him, and he came over from work, and he went over there at night. And he came back. He woke me up about 11 o'clock. He said, ha, 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 you want to go wash my car now? And I said, no, you didn't. He said, yes, I did. Matter of fact, I even brought her home. I took her from her boyfriend. Bud was his name. I think she said he brought her home. Maybe he didn't. Or he was going to bring her home if he wanted to. And so he says, Jim, you lost. And my mother says, what are you waking him for? And he said, never mind, Mom. I'll tell you downstairs. We had a two-story house. And I guess he went down. And my mother, she said, my boys, they're crazy. They're crazy. They're crazy. By this time, Bob, my brother-in-law, and my older sister come back from California, and they brought the kids in and lived at the house. And my brother-in-law went back. Well, my oldest brother went back with him. And he got a job out here part-time, and then he bought a house. And that's how we ended up in 1947. My mother wanted out of Pennsylvania because my dad was a habitual drunkard. And so one night, about 11 o'clock, my brother's car, my brother, my mom, and Chuck and I, we packed everything we could in the car and on top, and we came to California. And that was a long trip. We stayed at motels. The roads were like they are now. There were no freeways. And we had to stop every night. And the further we got, the more I hated California. I didn't want to leave. Because Chuck and all our friends was back there. And here we was going to have to make new friends. Mm-hmm. New friends. And we, like our old friends. And everybody, we left the night of my birthday, of all things. Mrs. Rhodes baked me a chocolate cake, though. And we had chocolate cake before we left about 11 o'clock at night. Because it took that long. My dad went to work, and we packed the car. And then we went over there, and then we left. Middle of the night, like, oh, geez, where am I going? 3,000 miles away of all my friends? And most of our friends, they was there, stayed up till we left, and bon voyage, But I hated California. I was always going to run away when I got out here, and run back, and hitchhike back to Pennsylvania. Because I could always stay at Rhodes's house. She would let me stay there. They only had the one girl, and they had bedrooms, and they wanted more. Mrs. Rhodes could not have any more children, and Mr. Rhodes wanted a boy so bad, and I was redhead, and that he kind of liked me a lot, and Chuck, he did too. I used to pass papers, and then my boss said he used to take papers up there. It was about 14 miles away, so he said, "You want to go with me and sell papers up there?" And I said, "Well, are they going to put me in jail, the prisoners?" He said, "No." So I went up with him, and we went to the PX, and I got all these papers, and I was selling papers at the PX, and most of the prisoners was German, and they tried to read and learn, to speak English,
Okay.
And they was always so nice to me, They pat me on the head, little kid here selling. But there was German and Italian prisoners. And my brother Bob got in the MPs. And his job was, they rounded up the prisoners, they went and put them on boats in France, and then they come over to New York on the boat. Then they put them on trains, and a lot of the camps was in California. And away they came. And the one camp there in Pennsylvania, they dropped Camp Shenango, it was called. Shenango Valley, and it was Camp Shenango. And a lot of times, they took prisoners there. And my brother was so happy because he was right close to home. And he could see my mom, dad.
Oh, okay.
And then he had to go back real quick.
So he escorted the prisoners.
Yeah, he escorted him, yeah.
Okay.
And he used to say, he said, he had a gun. And he used to point the guns when they had them on trains in France. And they'd point machine guns at them. And the Germans, they was quivering. They was scared because they thought they were going to shoot them, but they wasn't going to shoot them. And then the guys the MPs would just laugh at them, And then but they got to know them. But then he'd go back over in a boat and do it again, the same thing. And then I don't know, I can't. I don't know how much longer. I went up there quite a few times to sell papers, and also I used to pass papers. That's what we called passing them at night after school. And then on Sunday, there was 3 churches down in Sharon on the corners, and I used to go down there and sell newspapers there. I never went to church, but I always sold newspapers. Sold a lot of them. I could make some money, and that's how I got my spending money. I worked for it. And Chuck had a paper route too. He got the different brand. I had the morning paper route, and I would pass it before I went to school. And then he had the evening paper route, the newspaper in the evening. And then I had got one too, because there was too many customers, and so we both was passing the evening. And then I told my boss I don't want. It was a Youngstown Vindicator in the morning. And I said I don't want to pass that no more. You got to get somebody else. So then I just went to the evening, and that was enough. I thought that was enough. I was.
So this money, this is how you got into what? What hobby did this money get you into?
Food.
How about airplanes?
No.
Oh, I thought you would use that money to buy your airplanes.
No. I made paper airplanes.
Okay.
And I made a whole city with candles and air filled down in the basement of our house. And my mother said she flipped her lid when she came down. And I said, well, those are the landing lights for the airplanes. She says, you're going to catch the house on fire. Put them things out. And it was at nighttime. So I had to have light. Airplanes had it. So in the daytime, she said, you could play down there, but no candles, no lights. You can see, we had windows that opened up, looked out in the yard, and said, you got enough light for them airplanes to see. But no candles, no candles. She took all my candles down. But she flipped. When she seen all them candles burning, I could have set the house on fire.
So when you came out to California, where did you go? Were you in high school then?
Yeah, I was ninth grade, ninth or 10th grade, I forget. And California schools, we had, in Pennsylvania, you went to school with a nice shirt and a nice pair of pants and shoe shine, into the junior high even, and the senior high. We come out here, and I come home and I told Mom, I says, the kids out here, the boys, they were overhauls. I call them, that's what we call them in Pennsylvania, overhauls. The farmers, then they had straps on. And she said, overhauls, no. And my brother said, no, they call them Levi's. And I said, are they allowed to wear them? He said, that's all they always wear. I said, we had to wear nice pants in Pennsylvania. You're not in Pennsylvania. You're in California.
And what high school was this?
San Fernando High.
San Fernando High, okay.
In San Fernando. Now it's San Fernando Junior High. But a few weeks into, I think it was the 10th grade, I come home and I said, Mom, look at my English book. And she opened it, and it was Donald Duck and the other Disney character, Travels to South America. That in the 10th grade, that was our English book. And my mom said, oh my God, how do these kids learn anything? They have books like this. And that's what we had. The whole 10th year, yeah. And I think we got into the 11th grade, and they had real, honest to goodness, literature books, English books.
Yeah.
But we had Donald Duck Travel South America, and they made it go and go and go and go. It ran the whole year, and there was other characters too.
Yeah.
And we studied them, yeah. But my mother says, "Oh my God," and she said, my brother says, "What kind of grades you going to get?" And I says, "With these kids here, I'll get an A because they're stupid. They don't know anything. I was learning this stuff 2 years ago in Pennsylvania, and now they're finally getting it here, you know." And the schools back there was in that years they was easy. They did not have the education. They did not have the good teachers that the East Coast had. And friends and neighbors decided for me. Oh. Yeah, your friends and neighbors. That's what the letter said. Oh. Well, I was working at a service station, and before I usually after school, and then after I graduated, I stayed on there, and he wanted to sell me the station. And I said, no, I got no money. He said, you don't worry about it. It'll be yours. And then pretty soon I got the papers to report. And I had to report to Fort Oregon, way up in Northern California. And I had never been out of San Fernando Valley. I didn't know where we were going. But we went on buses and up there. And they held us up for 3 weeks because the president said we was only supposed to be in 18 months. And the president knew that he was going to raise it to 24 months. And they wanted us to get to wait. And we had to wait. We waited about 3 or 4 weeks to get sworn in. And when they went to 24, then we swore us in. Yeah. And we had 6 months of basic training. And I tell you, we learned a lot. And not like they have now. They're a bunch of wimps that 6, 7 weeks and they're gone. But we had basic training, and we got a Saturday pass about halfway through basic training, and we could leave the camp then to go to a city close by. But that's all. We had all that time we was at the camp.
And so what year was this?
51.
51? Okay.
I went in April of 51 and got out in April of 53. Yeah, 2 years. And
so what did you do for 2 years in the Army?
I was a military police.
Okay.
And same thing as my brother. When he heard that, he says, "Oh my God, you're going to be in the military. You're going to. There's all kinds of names they're going to call you." And I said, "Let them. I don't care. I got a wooden club. It will beat him to death." And we got our basic training, and they picked. Most of the guys went to FECOM, which is Far East Command. That was a Korean War. Korean peace action. It wasn't a war. They didn't call it a war. Peace action. And we lost that one too. And then Vietnam we lost, We did by it. Anyways, we was going to go, we were supposed to be sent to Paris. Man, we loved that. Well, they changed us. You're not going to Paris. You're going out to the desert. What are you doing in the desert? Never mind. And that was Camp Desert Rock. And that's where they were exploding atomic bombs above ground. And we was out there for security. And it was not a fun place to be, believe me. And we went through every April, October, we went out, and then we come back in April because Camp Desert Rock was only about 70 miles from Death Valley. And you know how hot it gets in Death Valley in the summer. And we was living in tents, no air conditioning, one light bulb hanging, and they were feeding us mostly World War II sea rations. They was cooking them up, and they were terrible food. And so in April, we all went back to Camp Stillman, which is our permanent camp. And there was, we was C Company, and there was Able and Baker Company there. And then pretty soon, we said to our company commander, come October, send a Baker Company out there. He said, I'm going to try it. But they wouldn't let him. They said, you guys have all the experience, and they're going to have to teach these new guys all over again. No, that's not the Army way. So we had to go again. And we went 3 years in a row like that.
Okay.
And I would say in them 3 years, there was a big tower, and it was about 80 miles north of our camp, where we lived. And there was nothing, Yucca Flats they call it. There's nothing out there, nothing but jackrabbits and sand and sagebrush. And they put this atomic bomb on a tower, and then we took VIPs. There was all kinds of officers from the service, and then some of the senators from Washington. We take them in trucks and take them all the way up there. We went up right to ground zero. That's where they exploded, and we showed them the tower, and up on top was our A-bomb. So then we got back in the trucks and went back. Supposedly it was safe, 30, 40 miles back from ground zero, and they was wrong. They was experimenting. They didn't, the AEC, Atomic Energy Commission, they did not know what they was doing. And we got nuked, lots. Because some of the guys, after they got discharged, they died of leukemia. And that's what was the cause of it. From getting nuked, we had film badges. We couldn't wear anything metal, no belt buckles, no money, no metal canteen. They had a big canvas bag with paper cups for water up there, because that's all there was. And we would, usually right at sunrise, which 6 o'clock usually, they would detonate that thing. And a lot of times, we couldn't leave till noon. No food, no water. We drank all the water till we had to leave to go back to camp. And a lot of times, they goofed up so bad, there was 2 small mountain ranges, or 3 maybe. And the shock wave, we'd go back and our tents was on the ground. We said, what do you have, windstorm? No. He says, they called it the awful awesome ball of fire. They would have a countdown But all these VIPs went into a blockhouse. The military police, we had to sit outside with our backs to ground zero.
Yeah.
And we had to put our hands over our ears and our eyes. You try that. And then put our head between our ears, between your legs. And then you could feel the flash even though your eyes were closed. It was daylight, but it was more daylight. And as soon as the flash was over, then we had loudspeakers, and they said, okay, you can get up and turn around. And there was this awful, they call it the awful awesome ball of fire. It was spinning around, every color in the rainbow. And it was something so beautiful you could never paint it. And it rose, and it was melting the sand and turning it into glass, you know. And then it went up and it disappeared. Then it went up it had up to the T in the from the atomic bomb, and then at the top, and amazingly, at the bottom when it went off, there was millions of degrees heat. At the top of that T, there was a saucer of ice. You could see it for about 10 to 15 seconds, then it melted. How that ever formed,
Wow.
we don't know. And they couldn't explain it either. Atomic Energy Commission. And then we'd have to wait, and the Air Force flew around. They cleared the area, supposedly. We got back in the trucks and took these idiots up to ground zero, close to it. And it was like it would have made a nice skateboard dish thing. And it was 3/4 to a mile across, almost round, perfect. But it was glazed. It was like glass. And so these people would ask us questions. You've been here before, haven't you? Yeah. Well, where's the tower? We said it's vaporized. Well, where's the pieces? We said it's vaporized. Well, where's the bomb? It's vaporized. Well, where's the pieces? We could not get it into their heads, and here they're supposed to be real smart.
Yeah.
You know, the captains and majors and stuff, and the stupid people from Washington D.C., the senators, they didn't know what from what.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get into their heads. It's vaporized. It's gone. Boom. No more. No more.
Well, do you think they didn't really understand the concept
No.
of what an atomic bomb was?
No. They just knew the two that went off in Japan.
Yeah.
Well, say they only exploded three. One at Alamogordo, and then the two in Japan.
Yeah.
And then we was next in line. We
Right.
were guinea pigs. Yeah, guinea pigs.
So you went right up to a hot atomic site.
Well, we didn't go up to quite to the dish. No.
Well,
We
it
stayed
doesn't
back.
matter.
They wouldn't let us. And they said no. They said no. It's clear. It's clear. And we had some captains and generals said no. It can't hurt you. All it can do is make you sterile. Then you'll never have any children. Well, it was full of beans.
Yeah.
And some of the guys they were married and they would go home and their wife became pregnant. So it worked, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then we go back and then we had full duty still because we had to patrol the highway that runs from Vegas up to Reno, and people were trying to sneak across it because it was on government property, and they wanted to go up and ground zero to see the bomb.
Yeah.
And they would have never made it. They had bicycles, some had horses, and they didn't have enough food, and we would catch them, and we had guns, and we meant business. Our company commander, he was a captain, he says, if they don't come along peacefully, shoot them, and we'll bury them right there. And he was serious. And the major out of the camp said the same thing. He says, nobody gets through to go up there. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. But we had some that did. They tried. And me and this black guy, we always, we got real good together. So we had to work nice, him and I together. And he knew me and I knew him what to do. And it was just getting daylight. And we seen some cars off the desert. And I said, well, somebody's trying to get. So we was in the Jeep, and we went across and we caught him. They was walking. We told him, stop, get out of here, go back. Did you see the signs? What signs? Well, there were signs, they seen them, but they didn't want to make believe they didn't.
Yeah.
And he said, you're military, we're civilians, you can't touch that, you can't arrest that. I said, you want to bet? So they turned around, this one incident only, they turned around and started going. And we had Browning machine guns. They were they big long clip in them. They held about 50 bullets. And we looked at one another and we said, should we? We said, yes. So we shot in behind him in the dirt. And the dirt bounced up and hit him. They knew we meant business. And we said, the next time we pull these triggers, they're going to be up at waist high. We'll cut you in half. They turned around and come back. They left. They knew we was not fooling. And we said, and don't come back. We know you, and we see you back here, we're going to arrest you right away. Right away. And you don't want to be into an Army POW camp. No, It's not like they're prisoners for civilians. No. The Army camp, boy, they make little angels of you time you leave there. You're angels. You're angels.
How many explosions do you think you were part of?
Usually we had, in that 6-month period, we have it almost every month. So, 5 in 1 year, to be safe, yeah.
And how many years did you?
Well, 3 years.
3. So you think
3,
you were
yeah.
part of 15 explosions?
Yeah. And you see, from the first one to the last one, they still didn't know what they was doing. They would screw up and make it bigger, and it would blow our tents down. And the radiation, the farmers was losing cattle all over Nevada, in Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, and they was blaming the radiation. And the government said, no, the radiation went up, it doesn't come down. It wasn't there. But it was radiation killing all these cattle.
Sure.
The government gave them some money for them, but that didn't replace everything. No. So then I come home and they try like heck before we left Camp Stoneman. No, Desert Rock, Camp Desert Rock. I took my wife Betty on our honeymoon. We went to Vegas and then we went up to Reno, and I took her by the area where we stayed, and you could see signs and stuff that there were tents and stuff there, and no metal buildings or nothing. And we had made on our gate, we had big rocks to come in for the cars, and we painted them white, and they were still there, most of them, yeah. And I said, there's our white rocks we painted, yeah, because we painted them.
Yeah.
Nobody else did, because we had to live in that. It was about a 5-foot square outhouse.
So,
looked like an
so
outhouse.
what year do you get out of the Army then?
In 1953. So then we got.
So you're back in L.A. then.
Yeah.
Back in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
Back living with your mom.
Yep, and bought my brother. Yeah.
And your brother
And
shot.
then I got a job, a good job, and my mom and I moved her out. We went together in a little apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, and then I got married. And
so how did you meet your
Betty,
wife?
My wife. We was going out. My buddies and I. We had 3 of us, 4 of us, and we go out every Saturday night and have a good time. And we went to this one bar, and now it was a very decent bar then, and it got crowded, and the tables was running side by side. Well, then we got crowded, and they put them end to end. Well, when they did that, my wife-to-be was sitting next to me, and I asked her to dance, and then I asked her sister to dance, her Suzanne, and they looked so much alike. And then I asked her, and I said, I just danced with you. She started laughing. She said, no, that was my sister. And her sister was married, and her husband was sitting there at the table with us. And he was laughing like the devil, Suzanne's husband. So I met her, and I quit drinking. And I got her address. This was Saturday night. I got up early in the morning. She said, I go to church. I went to church, Catholic church. Oh, okay. And I got up and had a little bit of breakfast, went down. It was about 10 miles away. And I was going up and down the street, and I couldn't find. She gave me a different little address. She didn't want me, no. And she happened to come out and get the Sunday paper as I was going by, and I seen her. And she went like this. She said, oh, my God, how'd you find me? And I said, you gave me the wrong number. She said, no, I didn't. And she looked at a piece of paper. Oh, she said, yeah, I did. And I said, yeah, you did it on purpose, too, didn't you? And then she started laughing. She says, yes, I did. And that started all out there. And we started going out, and she told me she was a school teacher, and I told her where I worked. Then I went and got a job at putting together Chevrolet cars, and that was at 49. And we made 47 cars an hour went out that door. Done, built.
What kind of cars?
Chevy.
Yeah.
Chevy cars, yeah. 2-door, 4-door, convertibles, whatever.
Okay.
And then they had, on the other side of the wall, they had the Chevy trucks. The Chevy and the GMC trucks. And they was building it in Van Nuys, California. And the buildings are there, but they're not making cars there anymore. And I worked there, and then I went to church with her a couple of times, and this isn't bad. So she introduced me to one of the priests that she worked for, because she was teaching in San Fernando at the time, and at school. And so I decided I'll go join the church. I said, "If I get married, 2 different religions, no." And she's more dedicated than me, so I joined the Catholic Church. And that started in, we was married, we was going to get married in June after school was out. Well, her mom was real sick with cancer. And the doctor told us the Christmas before, and he asked us about when we was going to get married. He says, "You're not going to do it sooner?" And we said, "No." She says, "Yeah, you are," because she says, Betty, your mother will not be alive. It was about the middle of June we were going to get married.
Okay.
She will not be here. So we kicked it up to April.
Okay.
And I was just starting to go to the classes for joining the church. And Betty told the priest, he says, "You're going to have to speed it up somehow for them, because it would have went way over." And we got married April the 6th. And I think April 6th, April 7th. And he did. He speeded it up. And yeah, he wanted me to be a Catholic when we got married, which is, we had a lot of good Catholic friends, so it wasn't, that religion was not new to me at all, no. My brother, one youngest brother, his buddy that he grew up with turned out to be a priest. And he would come home at Farrell there still, and Sharon, and see us. And he didn't go into the service, but my brother was in this, and he'd always come home, and he went and come and see my mother and I and my brother and my dad, yeah. And we know him. Then when my brother got out of the service, they used to go out, and he had like to roller skate too. And so no, we had very good friends in Farrell that was were Catholic, and our whole neighborhood there was Catholic. So Catholic religion was not strange to me. No. So that's.
So then you had 4 kids.
Huh?
You had 4 children?
Oh, yeah, we had 4 children. And I wish now I had drowned them all. I tell them that, and they laugh. And they say, "Grandpa, if you did, you wouldn't have all these beautiful grandkids." And I says, "Oh, yes, I would. I would have found some someplace and bought them. I would have had grandkids. You don't buy kids like that. You don't buy kids like a car, Grandpa." And but I tell you, we got 4 good kids, and we got 7 good grandkids. I do, and Betty does too, even though she's not here. And we're very proud of them. They turned out very well, and the grandkids are just doing great, and we love them all. And I'm glad we did have. We couldn't. We tried. We wanted to know. We only had 4. We wanted to have some more, but Betty's insides would not accept it. And the doctor said, "You can't have no more children," and that's why we stopped at 4.
Yeah.
We had a boy and a girl, and a boy and a girl, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do. Except I wanted a red-headed son. I got a red-headed granddaughter instead, but I got 2 red-headed I had a redhead daughter,
Yeah.
but now I got 2 redheaded granddaughters too, and so I got 3, but I still wanted to. Maybe my grandkids will have a redhead, a boy, for me, if I'm still around.
So what about, you went on a lot of vacations with your family. Tell me a couple of vacations you remember.
Man, with the family?
Yeah, with your
Well,
kids.
we 4 kids. We had a pickup truck with an overhead camper that slept 6, because the couch laid hooked up, and there was bunk beds and the bed over the cab. But we went to Canada. What a trip. Oh. We got up to Canada, but Betty's one sister's in a convent. She was important, and we stopped and seen her. And but it took a neighbor kid on top of it. So we had 5 kids. And that camper is now built for 5 kids. And we had an ice box, not a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And Betty done all the cooking outside on the Coleman stove because there was no room with all the kids in there if it was raining. She couldn't do it. But she did anyways. And but we got into Canada, and Victoria Island, you can get to it, but you got to go by boat. So we did. We went by boat. And we had a campgrounds over there. And the guys next to us, Tim said, they said, "Do you have a fishing pole?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "You said, I could take you fishing?" He said, "I don't think so, no." Well, he took Tim fishing. And Tim caught a fish, and they registered it, and he eventually got a letter of thank you. That was the biggest fish that day. And he never hardly fished at all.
That month.
In a month, yeah. And he was very proud of that fish. I don't know what, I guess we ate it, I don't know. My Betty was not, she didn't know how much about cooking fish. But, so then we get back on and got on the boat, and just before we left, they had this yearly thing up there. They have a bathtub race across the channel where we come over in a boat. And they were starting it. There was every imaginable different size and conglomeration of bathtubs you would believe. There was 30, 40, 50 of them. But this was a yearly thing, and it was crazy looking. And we passed them up, and they were still way back there. They would paddle with their hands or any which way they could. But they were bathtubs, literally bathtubs. I don't know how they floated because bathtubs are heavy. But they floated, and we got to the shore, and then we took off into northern Canada. And the campgrounds in northern Canada are beautiful. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And we made our way across, then we come down into Calgary, right on the border of the United States. And lo and behold, they have what they call Calgary Days. It's a big rodeo. It's a yearly rodeo, and it lasts for a week. Hundreds and hundreds of cowboys all over the place come down. They assemble. We were looking for a campground. No, forget it. And then we kept driving. 30, 40 miles out of town, we found a campground. And the sky was getting dark, and it was going to rain. So we found a campground. There was 4 other campers in there. And I had to park. There was a small river, creek. And I had to park over this big ditch like. And so we could get out of the camper, but there was no other level place to park. Well, then it started raining. I mean, it rained. In the middle of the night, I got up, and the water was almost up to the running boards of the camper. And I had to get out of there, and I said, how am I going to get this out of there? Because it was deep. And I don't know whether my truck could pull it or not. But I did, and I got it out. And eventually, where we was, it was all flooded in the morning, yeah. And we had a lightning storm, and my youngest, Kelly, we sat, she was scared, so I took her in the cab of the truck, and we sat there most of the night. And the lightning hit, we had one light in the campground. Lightning hit the pole, put the light out. And I was scared too. And, so then we kept going, and we got into Montana, and we was camped there that night playing cards, and we heard this noise, squeak, squeak, squeak. What is that? What is that? We could hear it, Betty and I. What is that noise? Kids, who's making that? And Kelly pulled her hand up. She says, that's me, Mommy and Daddy. What do you mean that's you? Quit making that noise. She said, I'm not doing it. It's my heart. I said, what? She said, doesn't everybody's heart make a squeaking noise? No. And we listened, and oh my gosh, scared the living daylights out of it. So the next morning we found a phone and called Dr. Medler and told him. He said, put the phone to her chest. And we did, but it wasn't doing it. And she said, I don't hear nothing. I said, it's not doing it. I don't know. She said, well, get home here quick. And we did. And he checked her, and we kept taking her back at different times of the day, and he finally hit it when it was squeaking. And he called his buddy doctor, and he says, here, listen to that. And he put the phone to her heart. And it turned out to be the one valve did not close enough, and it was letting the blood through, and it was squeaking like a little mouse. Squeak, squeak, at the beat of the heart. And she was too young for an operation, and they didn't know heart operations in them days either. And we said, no, how bad is it? She going to be okay, we think? Well, we think so. But we'll just have to watch her. And so far, Kelly's still alive and well, and she's never had nothing. And I guess she still has it once in a while it comes back. But I don't know, Kelly. You tell me. Is that enough, Tim?
One more thing.
Okay.
Two more things. Model airplanes. Have a drink of water.
Oh, model airplanes. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. You talk to Betty, my wife, because I used to, well, when the kids were small, I learned to fly in a big plane. Yeah. Except I ran out of money. Either because it was like it was around $8 an hour to rent the plane, and I had 4 miles at home to feed. And Betty said, "No, we need that money for food for the kids and us." So I quit flying. I never did get out, but I had soloed. I was out flying by myself, but I had never got my private license yet. I had to get some more hours in, and I didn't make it. And I always was going to do it later on in my years, but I didn't. But then I got into a guy where we're living at here on Staffordshire. I kept getting mail from a guy up the street, and it was model airplane stuff. And I finally found him, and he said, "Oh yeah." I said, "You aren't in that?" And I said, "No." So I went in his house and looked at it. I said, "Oh boy, here I am. This is me." So I got into it then. I went to a hobby shop, and I started building them. And I still had the first plane I built. It was a trainer, and I learned to fly in it. And I built many since, and I crashed many since also. And if anybody that flies small airplanes and they say they never crash, they're telling stories. They're lying. Everybody crashes. Everybody crashes. Because sometimes it's not the pilot's fault, the plane engine, or sometimes the electronics in it goes belly up, and you have no control. You just lose control, and it just goes where it wants to go. You have no control on it. And I love airplanes anyways. I used to, ever since I was a kid. And I have since, I worked for Lockheed, for Northrop, for Rockwell, and for what's that company?
Lear.
Lear. Well, Lear Fan in Reno, we built the first all-composite graphite airplane. But no, it's Northrop down here. And I retired from Northrop at 62 and a half, and I should have kept on working. Because Betty and I she was going to sell a store, and we was going to travel. And she kept putting it off. She could not park at that store. That was her baby. It was her baby. And she's very proud of it, and I was too, proud of her, how she built up the business. And all the teachers in this town knew her, and the college teachers knew her because we hired some of the college teachers for part-time help. And she had a lot of friends here, a lot of friends.
How many cars have you owned, and what was your first car?
My what?
What was your first car, and how many cars do you think you've owned?
Come on, Tim. Come on. My first car, well, I bought a Wizard motorcycle, bicycle. It had a motor on it because I was working at a gas station, and I was tired of trying to get rides and hitchhiking and buses. So I bought that to get back and forth. And then I bought a Cushman scooter. And that's even nicer. It's faster. And then I bought off my boss at the Texaco station in San Fernando. He had a car there, and the guy they fixed it, and the guy couldn't pay him, so he confiscated the car, and he sold it to me for $65. And I wish I had it back. It was a 1935 Ford Coupe, and it had a V8, a coupe with spoke rims, original spoke rims. You don't see that in a car. And now it'd be worth $40,000 if I had it. So that was my first car. Then I went in the Army, and I come home, and I took the Ford to the one camp. And I come back on Saturday afternoon late, and I told my boss after seeing him right away. And I said, "Dell, the heater in this thing don't work. I'm freezing." He said, "You want another car?" I said, "Dell, I got no money. I'm making $75 a month. I can't afford it. Don't worry about it." He knew of a car dealer down in Burbank. He called him on the phone. He says, "I'm sending a guy down. Give him whatever he wants, and I'll worry about paying." So I financed it then. He took care of the down payment and everything. And I financed it to Bank of America, $36.36 a month it cost me. That was a 42 Chevy. And it was a good car, put a lot of miles on it. We went back east with it. And then I was tired of it. I wanted a sportier one. And then I bought a 51 Chevy Bel Air, two-door Bel Air hardtop. And it was hot car then. It was 6-cylinder, but it was a dream car. And that's what I had when I got married. And then we started having kids, and we bought a station wagon. We bought a Chevy 56 station wagon. And then we had 2 more kids. We didn't have a big enough one. But we bought it, and we made the kids do. We didn't have seat belts in them days. We just had car seats. But we could put, Tim was the old one. He went in the back, and the 3 other ones in the front, in the back seat. And that's how we got through. And then we bought a Pontiac station wagon. It was bigger inside. And the kids liked that better, yeah. And it had air conditioning in it. The other cars did not have air conditioning in them. And we were spoiled. But we took that Pontiac. Well, Betty had gotten sick before this. She was still pregnant with Kelly, and Kelly was born. And we wanted to go back and see Jack and my brother and his wife in Pennsylvania. We had planned it, so we had a new car, and away we went. And we got back there, and Betty got sick. She spent the whole time in the hospital with the same problem with her kidneys down there. And then her and Kelly had to fly home, and I had the 3 kids. And we went down. Betty had an aunt down in Kentucky, at where the racetrack is, and we went and seen her. And then she would come out to California later to be a babysitter, because she just loved Ron. She just loved him. She had been married and had a baby boy, and he would have been almost the same age, but he died. And she just took to Ron like a fish does to water, and she loved him, and she's looked after him, and she looked out after the other kids, and Agnes. And so that 2 of the kids in the car, and we went to see her, and then we come home. And, what a long trip. Took from Cary, New Mexico, and it's 700 miles. Now, I had 3 kids, and she came back home with us, and her aunt. And, what do they call her name again?
Agnes.
Aunt Agnes, yeah. And she came home with us. And my mom was there, so my mom and 3 kids. And we got into a hotel. We thought it looked real nice from the outside. Fine. It's at 2 o'clock in the morning. A train came and sounded like it was going to come right through it. The next morning I looked up. The train track was about 10 feet away from the motel. We didn't get much sleep that night. So I got up. Come on, let's go. We went and got something to eat, and we got extra stuff and took it, and I headed to California. And I made that Pontiac roll. And we got home. We got in about 6 o'clock at night, and the kids got out, and I said, "Go knock on the door for your mother," because she didn't know we was coming. And she was so surprised, so shocked. And we was all there. And then she was mad, too, for me doing that. One day, it's too far. But I was younger then. I could do that. I could drive 1,000 miles without stopping. It wouldn't matter. But now, 300 miles is the limit. And that's doing something. Yeah. But then we bought we got rid of the Pontiac. It was the lemon. And we bought a 71 Chevy 4-door sedan. And then we bought the Pontiac. And then, we had the Pontiac, and I had trucks all the time, newer trucks. And I had a 50, what was that, 52, no, 47 pickup Chevy. Then I got a 54 Chevy, then a 64 Chevy, then a 69 Chevy, then a 71 Chevy trucks. And that was the last Chevy truck. And it was smashed up in an accident. They wouldn't fix it. Then I bought then I bought a 69 Chevy. Then I moved to California. That was out in Nevada. And I bought a brand new 95 Chevy GMC pickup truck. And now I got a Ford pickup truck. And we had a lot of cars in between. I had a 64 Chevy. I had a 49 Chevy. I used them for work because Betty had a car. And let's see. There's a lot that I'm missing, I know.
Well, you had the Chevelle with the 3-speed.
Well, that was it, the 64 Chevelle.
What was the brown car? Monte Carlo, that's right.
Yeah, the Monte Carlo. That was a good car. Chevy
Yeah.
Monte Carlo. That was 72. And then we traded that off. The gasoline crunch came when we was living in Nevada, and we traded off for a Pontiac, a small car. It got better gas mileage. What a mistake. A piece of crap. And then we moved to here, and we got a 64 Oldsmobile. And that was a good car. Then we traded that off and got a 2000 Buick, not a Roadmaster, but a Special, or super, whatever, the Buick. And we ran that, Betty was using that when she died. And I got rid of it. And I couldn't stand to see it every night and every day in the garage. I couldn't drive it. No. So I took it out and sold it. Well, I traded it for another car. But and I know she was mad when I did that because I bought a car that I always wanted. And she said, no. Well, no more car payments. The Buick was paid for. And I listened to her. And then and then I took advantage of her. She wasn't here to say no. And I bought that car. And the Chrysler 300, it's a wonderful car. But we had them all. We had a Cadillac too, a 94 Cadillac Seville, four-door sedan. That was a very good car. That was her car. And I had a pickup truck. And we traded the Seville for the Buick. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I'm missing something in between. Yeah, missing something. Yeah. But another nice trip we had. Back then we had motorcycles, and we would go, and Roy and I, we had trucking campers, and we put our motorcycles in the back, and we would go out driving to the mountains where the only way to go was a motorcycle or a horse. And we seen a lot of beautiful country. And this one campground, we had Tim Small back then, and I was riding around, and we looked up in the tree, and there was a bear. It was up in the tree, and it was scared. So I went back and I said, don't tell your mother, Tim. Don't tell your mother. And I said, come on, babe, I'll give you a ride on this motorcycle. I didn't tell her. And I went around and I found it, and I stopped right underneath the tree, right underneath the bear. And I said, Betty, did you ever see a bear in a tree? No. And I said, look up. Oh, my God, she screamed at me. She called me a lot of bad names. She said she started running. She wasn't going to. And the forest ranger, he was there, and he started laughing. He said, ma'am, that bear is not going to come down. There's too many people. It'll come down in the middle of the night. It'll be gone in the morning. Don't worry about it. We have this happening all the time. And she didn't believe him. Jim, take me home. Take me home. Get back in this motorcycle. And I took her home. And she would never to this day let me forget what I did to her. And the kids saw it, and I thought it was a big joke. We laughed. And that made her worse. That made her madder. Yeah.
Okay, well, the battery is dying.
Okay.
And it's hot. So, until next time, wave goodbye.
Okay. See you later. I hope. God willing, the creek don't rise.